Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Pinewood Hills. I hope you all had a fantastic festive break, and this is my first day back at the computer. Having a little time off with the family and stuff like that, and it's great to be back in Planet Coaster. We are adding some of the new Magnificent Rides DLC stuff into the park, and pretty much exclusively we are replacing stuff that we already had in. So here, first of all, we are finally being able to make the Venetian carousel into a proper grand carousel, which is kind of what the lore was anyway. We were describing it as a grand carousel. We were, making it out to be a grand carousel. We're putting this large cover over it and all that. So it's nice to be able to actually do that for real. So one thing I will say about this episode is it doesn't seem like that much actually happens, and it's actually because replacing areas in the game in a park is a lot more time consuming than building new areas, to be honest with you. And you'll see here, most of the stuff that you're watching on the time lapse is just like figuring out problems, really, because that's kind of what we had here. Was having to find where the cube was going to fit now, because the big problem is because we build the paths very organically and flowing, and the second you remove a piece of this exterior path here, the whole thing just disappears and it kind of goes a bit arse over tit. So you have to kind of be really careful with what you do. So a little few changes here. The entrance has now moved around to the right, and we've also added a turnstile in there, mostly to cover up the sort of the in-game one. That was one thing I'd love to see, is the ability to turn the in-game ones on and off, because they're just a little big. And the same with like the entrance and exit marks, especially with some of these newer rides that we've got. They're very sort of fairgroundy rides where there very often isn't a queue. You kind of just stand around the outside of them until it's your go, you know, especially in the UK, where we're all very good at sort of creating invisible queues ourselves anyway. So that's one thing I'd like to see now. Is don't get me wrong, I don't think we'll ever get get rid of the need for queuing in the game, because I think that's too big of a programming job. But the ability to hide those last few queue pieces, like we can get rid of the fencing, we can get rid of the path we can hide using things like this concrete that we're doing here. I wanted concrete, by the way. I wanted a bit of more of a solid base than the wood we had. But yeah, the last thing that would be really nice if we could do is actually just turn off the queue entrance, and then the actual sort of flat ride entrance and exit bits. These white bits here they look like airport gates or something, because a lot of the time they're a bit too technological for the actual ride that we're building here. They look a little bit out of place. So here we're going again. In the original one, we had a lot of these sort of crates and stuff around, this sort of very light circus theme that we've kind of carried on here, just to kind of cover those bits up. It'd be really great to turn those off. The guests can still queue, that's fine. We can still have the path on the ground. It'd just be nice for those last few bits of original Planko to go. Here is another example of it here. And the reason I say original Planko is because one thing I kind of love about the Magnificent Rides DLC, more than anything else, is it just shows you not only how much they are listening to the community, because pretty much everything on this list has been requested quite a lot. Now, I know you could argue that everything's been requested quite a lot. But a lot of the real big hitters here that people have been waiting for, especially the breakdance that we're placing in here in the what was originally Googie section. I don't know what this place is now, to be honest with you. I've put this down as a very temporary looking structure. One thing I noticed when we went to Lightwater Valley was there are some areas in Lightwater Valley where they've literally just got some fairground flats and put them down just to up capacity, basically, in the park, just to be able to say over 50 rides, or to be honest with you, just to be able to thin queues out a little bit in various places. I was thinking about putting pallets on the ground there to make the queue, but I thought that was maybe a little bit too carnival, a little bit too funfair, so we didn't do that. Instead, we do end up making a lot of this tarmacked, but I wanted it to have very low theming. I wanted it to pretty much just be, here's a ride, come and ride it. Very much like the Dodgems next to it, this area here is kind of a sort of fill in the gap, sort of fill in the space area really, just to get the ride numbers up a little bit. Here again, trying to come up with something creative for covering up these the queue entrances and exits. I actually saw these. It made me think of these when we went to the Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park, which is really great, by the way. They had these sort of temporary, semi-temporary light structures, and they were basically a wooden box like this with a light sticking out the top, and there'd be a small generator in the bottom of them. And I thought, you know what, these will probably work pretty perfect here. So again, I'm trying to go for that sort of temporary, but kind of half temporary look about it here, really. I think if I was ever to start another project in Planco, which I think I probably would. I don't think Geekism would be Geekism without some sort of Planet Coaster project ongoing. So if we ever do finish Pinewood Hills, and God knows what that looks like or when that happens, and I was to start another project, I would definitely start a smaller project. I would take a leaf out of Mass Bandits book, who's done some really great smaller projects that sort of help him keep his sanity, I guess, for want of a better word. I would love to do something like a travelling fair, like a proper sort of tacky travelling fair, and I'd use a lot of these sort of flats that we have now in the game that would work really well. So I don't want to go quite that extent here, because obviously this is still within a theme park, but like I say, a lot of the budget parks I've visited over the last couple of years, they have these areas where it's just, you know what, we just need to get some rides in here. Anyway, the thing I was talking about before, sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked then, was the Planet Coaster. That not only have they listened to their fans and added in rides that we obviously wanted, you know, with chair lifts and especially coasters, you know, the pretty much every coaster, the SLC, the Mac, and the what's the other one, the Schwarzkopf, you know, big hitters that people have been asking for a long time. Not only that, if you look at the drop tower that we might well add still into this park, this episode is purely replacing stuff we already had, really, for the proper versions here. So you'll see here we're removing the awesome scenery chairlift and putting the actual on it. Rube will put this in. I don't think he actually made the chairlift himself, though. I think it was a workshop item, but he did the stations, and I really wanted to keep the stations pretty much exactly as he left them. This one still needs a lot of work, and he said that when he gave the part back to us. He was like, no, do you know what, that one is pretty much a placeholder, but I like the sort of generic nature of it. So so here I'm going around and getting rid of all the scenery ones. And then here, really, all I'm doing here is making the stations that were already there fit around the new in-game chairlift stations. So it's some height variation, some stretching, some pulling. It's not very interesting to watch, unfortunately, but you know, this is what I've done in Planco this week, so you know, you guys want to see it, so I'm sharing it with you. Like I said, this one needs a lot of work. This one now will be the main way over to the other side of the lake, so if people want to come over to the haunted house, or to Gulpyland to an extent, or even to what will eventually be our final area that hopefully we're going to be able to get started on soon, our sort of last big hurrah, big theming area, sort of last big expansion in the noughties of the park. But one thing, yeah, if you look at that, the drop center, the drop tower, and the chairlift, to be fair, and the breakdance, and many others that have come with the Magnificent DLC, and compare them to some of the original flats and the original rides that we had in the game. You know, you compare that drop tower to that one with the big Planet Coaster King with his sunglasses on and all that, you know, you can really tell that they are completely listening to the community that are saying, do you know what, we want to do our own theme. We love theming in the game, and you know, and this isn't just coming from like a realistic point of view, like how I now build and how people like Bro Nation build and things like that. But from a fantasy point of view, you know, people like Sylv or Delay Designer, they want to be able to do their own theming on these rides, and actually the low theming really helps pretty much every type of player do what they want to do with the game. And let's be honest with you, this game has now become a Lego box. You know, it's the ultimate sandbox theme park building. You know, the management side is a little light, but you know, people, there's not. It still amazes me when I see people in Facebook posts and stuff say, "Oh, we want new scenarios." I'm thinking, wow, people still play that game like this. You know, those players are still around. Kind of amazes me, because really the way this game has moved forward in the development over the last couple of years has been completely towards the sandbox player, and they've kind of embraced the fact that that's where their that's where their sort of niche is, and that's where their sort of development time should probably lie. So personally, I mean, I don't want to put words into Frontier's mouth, you know, but looking at the packs they've released and the way that the sort of scenery style and the way that the ride style especially, and the fact that pretty much all the DLC has been scenery and ride based as opposed to major sort of game advancements. I know we've had things like hotels and stuff added, but really, you know, no new scenarios for quite a while now. I think maybe Vintage came with a couple, I forget. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea. Now I've just noticed a couple more of these adverts pop up. I'm going to try and get rid of them. What it is, it's such a weird thing. When I'm recording a game on my second monitor, I often watch YouTube. It's my chance to catch up on YouTube. So I'll watch. So for instance, I watched Silverette's new Coaster College about the SLC, or the SLV, sorry, as they call it in the game, the Schwarzkopf Coaster. It was really good. And I watched like Rudy Renkamel's. I don't know, not quite sure how it's pronounced. Isla Napoli or Isla Napoli or something like that. He's sort of user-generated content and realistic style builds Park, which is very good. But for some reason, whenever YouTube shows an ad, my video capture cuts to the ad for a split second and cuts back again. And because it's literally a split second, and then I'm watching this footage 800 times sped up at the moment, it varies between 800 and 1200 depending on how much I manage to get recorded. I sometimes miss them when I'm watching the footage and recording the voiceover. But I've noticed two, a Squarespace one and a MailChimp one, so I'm going to try and get rid of both of them. But if they do pop up, please don't think it's me trying to subliminally message you or anything like that. It's literally just a really weird artifact of the recording process for some reason. Literally tidying up some gaps here. Again, I didn't want to do that much to Rubel's work, so it literally is kind of band-aiding the chairlift in. Here I've done some proper sort of JML style QVC buy now type befores and afters. So we've got some horrible slow-mo black and white versions, but you can see what the new stuff looks like now. I set up some security cameras. I think I messed up a little bit on the chairlift one, but yeah, this weird pathing here was originally going to be like a man house, but I had about 5 or 6 different goes at it and just could not get it right currently. I'm much happier with the breakdance there. Still a little bit of space where we need to finish off the hot air balloon rides to the right there. Obviously you can't see the hot air balloon, it's up in the air, but there's that caging there is where the hot air balloon ride sits. And then finally you'll see that we've gone from very well done but static chairlifts to one that actually, there we go, the camera's a little off then, sorry about that, to ones that actually move, and hopefully once there's something on the other side, people will use it to travel over as well. I know some people have said there's slight issues about that, people are just using it as a fun ride as opposed to transport. But there you go. Next, this is not the only Magnificent DLC stuff. We are going to be using a couple of the new coasters, I think, eventually in the newer area to finish off with. But thank you so much to all of our new patrons. Look at all those names on the side there. I know they're moving a bit quick now because there's so many of them, so I am going to adjust this end screen so that we get to see your names a little bit better. But thank you so much for watching. I completely run out of time. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. Happy New Year. I'll see you in the next one.